With Jacob Reed and Joram Van Hicks holding tight grips on the championships, all eyes turn to the challengers and their drop weeks to see if they can close the gap. Will Shady Ahmad or Nick Nakano's finally be able to notch a win under their belts this season in GTP? And will Phil Lake or Mickey Friesen find a way to join them in GTO? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the iRacing IMSA Vintage series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Our director is Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. One of the lesser-known tracks in iRacing, IMSA Vintage tackles this legendary motordrome for the first time in 2 years today. To find out what makes this place tick, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Located about 3 hours south of Paris, the track is most famous for its nearly 2 decades of hosting the French Grand Prix. But it has seen a variety of open-wheel series, sports cars, and motorcycles compete during its history. With about 4.5 kilometers in length, or just under 3 miles, its 17 turns wind back and forth between a series of hairpins and chicanes. Notably, a few of the turns are modeled after famous corners from other tracks. Estoril's long, sweeping opening to the lap provides a serious challenge to kick things off. Then, the flat-out run up to Adelaide tests your precision with braking by smacking you in the face with the slowest corner on the track. Later, the Nürburgring and Imola chicanes do little to slow the car, but forces you to thread the needle on your way towards 2 other tight hairpins. But there are other notable turns that are unique to the circuit. The Grand Courbe is the first you must tackle and is a swift double apexer that blends directly into Estoril. This means that any attempts at an overtake there are going to require some serious bravery. Chateau d'Eau will test your throttle control as the radius opens up and needs a good exit to make sure you aren't vulnerable on the run down to Lissay. The reputation of this track tells you to expect overtakes to be difficult, but a little aggression and some good braking should give you opportunities. All in all, after more than 60 years, French race fans have embraced this staple of motorsport in the country.
Well, Craig, this place is small and complicated. Why don't you walk us through how the IMSA Vintage cars are going to handle this today?
It's small, but it's mighty. 2.74 miles, 4.41 kilometers. And those 17 turns are full of following corners to start the track, and then it tightens up. So if you've got a track that tightens up on slow corners, GTOs will really love those sort of corners, just due to the fact that these GTPs will not be able to take them at high speed. But then you get to something like a Storo at turn 3, and it's very flat out. The track looks like it's high speed. It is. Key factor here, very narrow. So don't expect to see a lot of free wide, and 2x2 is going to be very tough, as we saw in other races at this track earlier this season. It's not one that the drivers drive a lot, but it's one that they should be used to in terms of the tightness. That final complex there, Complex Lucy, 16 and 17, it's a no-go for anybody. You're going to have to win the race on the at turn 15 if you want to win it.
Absolutely, and if you want to win the championship, you're going to have to catch our 2 leaders. Jacob Reed being the one who's currently with the strongest lead. He's had a run of form of all wins and 1 goose egg. That one will become a drop week, so he'll maintain his point standing even after the drops come into effect. Shadi Ahmad, 27 points back, is also going to be able to drop 1 of his goose eggs. So unfortunately for him, he's got 2 on the trot, so that well, actually he doesn't have any, so that means that he might lose a little bit of time. Nick McConnell does have 2 goose eggs on the trot, so he's going to have to find a little bit more ground as well. Ilka Kodosalo pretty far back of Nick McConnell, with Brendan Lim only 3 points back of Ilka, so looking to battle it out for that top 4 position. Christoph Lesniak, Seamus Power, Jack Wells, Fabian Jungluth, and Gabber Martinez round out the top 10 of the GTP.
Well, in the GTOs, Joram Van Hicks leads the championship, but the key thing here is 0. Everybody but Friesen, Cloud, and Hawkins have not done a full 6 races this season, but 2 of those names, Friesen and Cloud, had 0s last week after the big one caught a lot of drivers out. So Philip Lake, he's only had 1, he's missed 1 race, so has Van Hicks. They're able to really catch up here, but Friesen, it's crazy how that one mistake there, not his own fault, has made him lose that P2, but he's still so close to the championship. Bottom of the table as well. Josh Brain, Shane Hawkins tied. Roman Bello just behind him. Schuster is on 52 points. Shout out to Ian Haycox in 11th. Also on 52 points. We're at the halfway stage, and you wouldn't think it, Adam.
You You would not think it, and as the times start rolling in, we'll get into that point. We are at the halfway stage, round 7 of 12 for the IMSA Vintage Series. It's a 40-minute race, so there's standard sprint setup. We got open setups for these vehicles. They can set up the car however they like or dislike today. They have no spare vehicle, though, so if you go off track and hit one of those Armcos, it's done for you today. Drive through at 17 incidents, and the additional penalty for IMSA Vintage is a disqualification at 25 incidents. Nick Mecanos holds provisional pole position after his first lap rather. Jacob Reed and Nick Mecanos both on their second laps right now. Jacob Reed about 4/10 back of Nick, looking for that pole position. Yoni Hagner joins us once again. He's currently the quickest in the GTOs, and most of the GTOs have yet to set a qualifying time. Here we see the final couple of stretches of the corners as we see other cars going through. Nick Mecanos still holding that lead over Jacob Reed. Jacob just in the last couple of stretches of the corner as well. Dipping through this quick right and left-hander is Jacob Reed coming through the final section of corners now. And actually, I stand corrected. He's actually going through a couple of the first and second sector now, into the second sector and into the hairpins.
Yeah, Jacob Reed, he's on to the final corner. This is 15 into 16 and 17. You can see even there, he's trying to hit a lot and cut as much as he can. And that mistake there at the chicane at the end has cost him pole position. 0.059 behind Mecanos. That's a bit of a shock, but here's Yoni Hagner. He gained his 7K rating back last week, and now he's going to try and dominate. And wow, he's got a really good time at the moment. Friesen just pipping Henry Morse, but you can just see as they start their second lap, and look at the delta here today. 14 seconds at the delta. Hagner's going to aggressively hit those. He loses pole to Josh Brain, gains it back just by the barest of margins.
Oh, I was really hoping Josh would get that pole position. Interestingly enough, though, Joran Van Hicks, even though he's on his second lap, is only down in 7th position right now for qualifying. Nicky Friesen also looking for an improvement from that current 4th position for his second lap. We're going to go on board with him and check out his current setup. Trying to be very calm and collected on the throttle and with the wheel right now, going through the final couple of chicanes, bouncing over those curves. The Audi suspension taking it well. And is he going to pip him? Yes, he is. 0.2 faster than Yoni Hagner. A great qualifying time. Can Van Hicks respond?
Can Van Hicks respond is the question. Lesniak had a P3 in the bag in GTP, but sliding across the finish line gave him the furled black flag and disqualified that time. So he did not have the best of times out there. But for Van Hicks, he's got a lot of cloud cover right now, a lot of grip. Not the smoothest of entries into 16, but 17 comes out strong. He'll come across the line. He needs to find a good time. I think he slowed down at the end there. He knew it wasn't going to be faster. It is just, but it's not enough to move him anywhere in the standings.
Riding on board with Doug Cloud as he tries to make up some time, currently in 11th position in the GTOs. He is the last driver out there who has yet to set both of their qualifying laps. So Doug Cloud will be on board with him for the remainder of this lap as he tries to figure out how to gain a little bit of time. He's got a 1:38.3 compared to Nicky Friesen's 1:37 flat. He's got a second and a half to find.
And yeah, a little bit of a slide there coming through Nürburgring at 7 and 8 there, through to what they call the 180, and now into turn 10. And this is where it gets really tight, into turn 11, which is the quick left-hander, and now hard down, and you're going to hit another chicane here, 12 and 13, and you can just see, you want to compromise your entry into 12 to get it set up for 13, to another sweeper, and here is 14, Chateau d'Eau. And you can see how tight it is, but it tightened and then opened, so that's going to be perfect for the GTOs when it comes to speed later on. And now that run down to turn 15, and again, just look how tight this track is. A lot of opportunity. He's got a bit too deep there, I feel. Gonna have to scrub all the time off. I'm just checking, I don't see any off tracks. This is still a legal lap, but how much is it gonna be for him? Well, it's a good time. It's put him up to P8.
Absolutely, a 37.8 puts him up to P8. So if he wouldn't have missed the last couple of tenths there, he would have been further up the field, more like 5th or 6th position. But that is going to wrap up all the drivers who have set a qualifying time. Craig, we talked about it before we went live today. It's going to be a tight race around here today.
Yeah, multi-class is going to be an issue around here today. Patience, as we always know, is a virtue around these types of track, but it's going to be a lot different today just due to the way we're looking at the track conditions.
Absolutely, and the starting grid today is going to be Nick McConos next to Jacob Reed. Nick McConos beating Jacob Reed in the qualifying standings by just under a tenth of a second. A fantastic qualifying for him. Jack Wells is going to line up behind Nick, with Shadi Ahmad lining up behind Jacob. Ivan Platin is going to line up on row 3 next to Brendan Lim, with Gabri Martinez and Christoph Lesniak on row 4. Ninth is Laust Olsen, and top 10 rounded out by Brandon White. And then we have Stefan Leslie, who's going to start off the next page in 11th position. Antonio Alvarez next to them on row 6. Miguel Villamarin is going to line up in 13th position, with Richard Young in 14th. And Ahmet Yesil is the only driver to not set a qualifying time, rounding out your 15 GTPs today.
When we get to the GTOs, and well, Mickey Friesen, who is pole position, with Joni Hagner just behind him, and then Josh Brain so tight behind him, with Henry Morse. Not a lot separating those two. Philip Lake will be 5th, and Andreas Schuster will be 6th, followed by Johan Van Hicks in 7th. Surprising quality for him. John Cloud will be 8th. Roman Bello 9th, and Shane Hawkins will round out the first page in 10th. And then we get to JD Rodriguez, who is in 11th, Ian Haycox in 12th, followed by Forbin Pollock in the unlucky 13th, and Milo DeChari will be in 14th. And then it's Jack David Spickett will take 15th. Mate Lorenzi will be 16th, with Yoni Berg in 17th. Johnny Bell will be 18th. And then it's Jose DeLeo, the last of the time qualifiers, in 19th. Bryce Calusa, with no time set, will be 20th out of your 20 GTOs. Interesting to see Bryce here, but it's 35 drivers out there on the track today. A fairly small turnout here for Magny-Cours for a very small track, Craig. It's going to be a challenge for the drivers to navigate around here, but with the 15 GTPs to the 20 GTOs and not a lot of track space to speak of, it's going to be very interesting to see how the GTPs navigate the traffic today at a track that historically does not really support multi-class racing all that well. But you can just see on this grid, because it's going to be a full formation lap here. And it's one of these things that you can just see there's not a lot of space between the cars and the edge of the track. Yes, you could run some of that curbing or just at the bottom of the screen, so that does give you a little bit of an advantage. But this is the type of track where literally right now the French GT is happening at this track right now, as it's a GT World Challenge round this weekend. So these GTOs, this is kind of the track that suits them. For these high-speed downforce cars, well, the last time we saw something this fast around here in the real world, Kimi Räikkönen was blistering a Ferrari around here. And I kind of feel that's the last time we were going to see cars at this pace. Interesting, I will say, Adam, before I give the microphone back, 37 Celsius of 99 Fahrenheit, wind of 11 kilometers an hour southwesterly. Going to be a lot of side draft today for them. Absolutely, a lot of side draft for them today. 99 Fahrenheit on track for those of you over in the Americas, and it's a real challenge for these drivers to keep their the traction down. There is some cloud cover that is coming and going over the track, as you can see right there in this shot, and those clouds fairly dense, so it could provide some cooling to the track if it were to overflow the track. Now, you're talking about the high speeds and narrow track around here. Here is one of the things that makes this a possible opportunity for the GTPs. They're likely to be able to pass the GTOs on braking, and when we're done with a lot of this twisty stuff, just because of the nature of the pace difference, the GTOs will be able to stick to a line. The GTPs will be able to predict around much of this circuit. There are a couple of sectors where things get complicated. This straight here is a very easy place to make a multi-class pass, but through these S's and then through almost the entirety of the next sector, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. But the interesting thing is they went through Adelaide, the hairpin at 5, 6, that little kink, the hairpin, the chicane, 7 and 8, Nürburgring. The thing that's interesting is we always say the Audis have to be predictable. Well, you've got a little kink there. The Audis will want to cut it a little bit, but then you'll have GTPs going, do I go around them, or will there be a shot in the inside? So while it's tight enough that you can go side by side to make an overtake, those little kinks, and you get it here as well after the chicane, just these little kinks here, that's also going to throw a little bit of hesitation for some of these GTPs. And when you think, yes, we've only got 15 GTPs, last time we didn't even have half the GTP field finished. You just got to feel that there is going to be a little bit of hesitation, and when you're fighting against somebody, you're getting a little bit of impatience, I would say. Well, that's just it, Craig, is that every time
that there's an opportunity for a decision to be made versus a fairly common route to be taken, that decision, that split second of which way am I going to go, is usually what leads to the chaos here. So I would not be surprised if we see a couple of miscommunications for these drivers as we get ready to go racing. Just about to come around the final section of the course.
Yeah, I know the GTOs are going to single file. I don't know what the GTPs are going to be doing. Gentlemen's agreement today, Adam. It could be very interesting if they don't go single file for the chicane.
And they do not. They're going up double file right now. Jacob Reed maintaining that double file along Nick Lakanos. Nick can go whenever he wants. The pace car is off. He's going to wait until the green flag and gets a nice jump on Jacob Reed. Shadi Ahmad is going to try and be challenging Jack Wells into the first corner. We can see just how quickly the corners come. There is no straightaway, but it's off and green for the GTPs. No issues.
No issues for the GTOs. Doug Clow decides to do a pit start, unfortunately, so he's going to be down a few positions. So only Jose Deo making up 2 places early doors. We keep our eyes on Josh Brain. I said that Jose just had a moment, lost a few positions. The battles, though, it's very quiet because they were single files in the GTO.
And the GTPs around the first hairpin, they go very, very tight there. And Brendan Lim and Christoph Lesniak outbroke each other going into the first corner. And look at this, a slow Richard Young coming off the final corner right now, along with Ames Yesel. And they've got the GTO leaders in between them. This is going to make things complicated for the GTO leaders.
Yeah, Young had a little bit of a moment there, just locked up and couldn't get the car out in gear, really. So now you've got some of these cars having a moment. Yoni Hagner's got to slow down to the GTO, and these are GTPs trying to get on by, and that's not what the leaders want to see. A lot of damage there to Yesel as Johan Van Hicks is now saying, look, are you fast enough or not? We need to go by. You can see he's really struggling here, and this is where it's going to be a lot of issues. Up ahead, side by side for a split second, and Henry Morse get by Yoni Hagner, and also Josh Brain. Morse is up 2 positions.
We're talking about how Friesen doesn't have a win this season. This is his best opportunity, currently in the lead with Henry Morse passing Yoni Hagner because of that slowdown. Oh, notice the tail contact for Johan Van Hicks, our championship leader. He's got major front end damage now.
I wouldn't think that would be major damage. It was the lightest of taps. The lightest of taps there for him. Thankfully, I don't know if that's going to be too much of an issue around here, just due to the fact that, yes, there's a lot of high speed, but will you get up there straight away? That's Roman Bello just having a bit of a spin, crashing too much off the curb, gets on by, thankfully everybody avoiding him. Very tricky moments to start the race, all just to some GTPs just being a little bit out of position.
Side by side with Brendan Lim and Christoph Lesniak. Lesniak trying to pass Brendan Lim on the outside of the hairpin. Never going to happen around there with the GTP traction. You can see them diving through this chicane and then into the next, I guess this is a hairpin. And here we see Joran Van Hicks. You can see the damage on the car under heavy pressure from JD Rodriguez behind. But he's got to make up all that ground back up to Andreas Schuster up ahead if he wants to try and challenge for the top 5 today.
Yeah, and he's got JD Rodriguez. They come out of Adelaide, and now they're going to be the interesting part. This is the shortest of the 4 straights, and now it just tightens up. Able to just keep that going. I don't think you get up to the speed to lose a lot of time there, but you can see Rodriguez, I say Rodriguez is right behind him. He had a slowdown, so let's keep our eyes on Jack David Spickett, who's also had a slowdown. And you'll see this a lot here as the drivers try to cut some of these chicanes really tight. The issue then comes for the likes of them. You go a little bit too much, and then Barney decides, no thanks, take a slowdown.
Absolutely, and so Jack David Spickett trying to sneak his way through, trying to recover that slowdown and make up some ground, currently in the 13th position. Shane Hawkins has made it past JD Rodriguez, but they're all tucked in behind Joran Van Hicks, who's actually starting to gap that pack behind, trying to close that gap to Andreas Schuster ahead. You can see JD putting the pressure right now on to Shane Hawkins after that move, going through the first couple of sections. I can report that Christoph Lesniak is off track right now. He's had an incident. Yeah,
Lesniak has had an incident. Just missed Ian Haycock's had an incident. In fact, it looks like Lesniak actually just had a PT freeze. As we're keeping our eyes on Ian Haycock, tried to get on by. Not sure why he's saying he's first. I think because he may have gone into the pit lane there for a split second. He's definitely not first. It's JD Rodriguez trying to get on past Emilio Dechari. Got the inside through the Gulf Straight here. And that's G-O-L-F, not G-U-L-F. As he comes on by, and Dechari doesn't really have a lot to argue there. He's going to go hard into the braking. This is kind of like as he slides to Rodriguez, holds it for Rodriguez, no contact, and then I say there is contact. He tried to hide and fight it, and I think he didn't fight it a little bit too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, he kept his foot in a little bit too much. He was worried about releasing, putting on the brakes and sliding into Dejari, but ended up spinning Dejari out, unfortunately, due to contact. And so Dejari with right rear damage, I believe he's got a right rear toe link that's broken, so unfortunately that car likely going to need to come to the pits. We're on board with Gabriel Martinez in 6th position in the GTPs, battling Yvonne Platten for 5th spot. Shadi Ahmad up ahead of them in the 4th position, the number 24 machine. So everyone pretty evenly spaced out here behind Jack Wells in 3rd spot. And then it's 1.7 to Jacob Reed, and then 2 seconds up to Nick Makanos. Nick starting to run away with this one.
Yeah, got some really good pace out there today. Granted, he basically just matched the same lap time as Jacob Reed. Reed with the 24.885, Makanos with 24.800. But you just start to see how some of these corners, and this is a nice one for them, a 180 degree as they call it, gets a nice little follow for these sort of cars, just able to then just get on the throttle. But that hairpin after the first long straight, Adelaide, it kind of reminds me of the Hockenheim hairpin at the start of the track. If you know, you know. And unfortunately, they're going to have to be fighting a lot of that. And then again, another hard braking corner, another sharp corner, 14. This is going to be important for some of these drivers. They will catch multi-class traffic, the back markers of these 19 now GTOs, very shortly, I feel. But it should be okay until they get to possibly the top 10.
Absolutely. So they're going to have 1, 2, and then a couple of other ones. The deal is Antonio Alvarez has a spin from 13th position. He got together, I believe, with Miguel Villamarin. So Nick Makanos is going to have a couple of GTOs to deal with. But even just one GTO around this track, Craig, could hold you up by as much as a second a lap if you catch him in the wrong place. And he's catching up to Ian Haycox right now, is Nick Makanos. And he's looks like he's going to catch him about in the wrong spot.
Yeah, let's see where he catches him. And oh, it's not a good place. We keep our eyes on Jack Wells trying to hold off this. There's Makanos first traffic. Straight through Nürburgring, and that's not the Nürburgring he wants to go through. He hits onto the 180, and this is where the multi-class aspect comes in. Makanos is a good driver, but you have to tip your hat off to the way Jacob Reed has driven multi-class the last season and a half, just with the way that he's able to find opportunities. And now a lapped GTP, and this is going to hold everybody up. And now you can see just that hesitation. He had to get on the brake. Jacob Reed right behind Makanos right now. And now they're going to be taking more traffic down this straight. Should be an opportunity, but there's that hesitation again, Adam. You just got a little king. Where do the Audis go?
Yeah, that slow GTP is that Matt Yesel, the last driver on the track behind even the GTOs right now. And Nick Makanos, Jacob Reed with a little bit of a stumble as he bounded off of the inside curving there. Just loses about another 3 to 4 tenths. Look at that. Nick Makanos decisively passed Jose Duleo. And then we've got Jacob Reed trying to snake his way past Doug Cloud and Johnny Bell, able to do so.
Yep, and now they've come to the hard part of this now. Estoril, nice little flat driving here. Won't hit anyone until after this chicane, and that's where it's going to get very interesting because they're about to hit 15th and 14th. Well, 15th is Johnny Berg, 14th Emilio Dejari. So a few names that they're pretty used to. These are the GTO battles, though, and they're pretty tight at the moment. Friesen had a really good lead. He had to serve a slowdown just at the same point here a few laps ago, and now he's just having to go on the defense, and what a defense it is because look at the names of drivers behind him. Henry Morse, Yoni Hagner, Josh Brainford at Lake. One of these is not like the other. I do apologize, Henry. That's you.
Absolutely. Henry Morse. A little bit of a surprise to see him up there battling for the win of this race, and he's in a really good position to do so if he could just cling to the lead of the race. Gabriel Martinez makes it past Ivan Platten. Nick Makanos takes a late dive on Emilio Dejari to get past the GTO, and then Jacob Reed sneaking through and just still only 5 tenths behind Nick Makanos. So the traffic's starting to get thicker for our GTP leaders, and for our GTO leaders, the draft's starting to get thicker.
And this is what you expect when you watch a GTO fight, as we keep our eyes on a Lesniak right now. He's trying to battle Stephanie Leslie and Laus Olsen, who's made a return. Really liking this track. And oh, a spin there from Leslie. A Lesniak sees it. That's some good heads up there, because in all due fairness, Leslie was unable to slow that down to a complete halt, even locking the brakes. Knew what's going to happen. Thought about trying to just go through at a slow speed. Got on the brakes, did Lesniak. That's smart, but again, he had that mistake in qualifying, and you know, Lesniak is 9th after that.
Looking at Jack Wells right now, Jack is about 3 seconds behind Jacob Reed and Nick McConnell. We're duking it out for the lead of the race right now, and they're just snaking their way through the GTP pack. They're up as high as Jack David Spickett in 9th position. The top 3 in the GTOs, though, still nose to tail right now. Mickey Freese and Henry Morse and Yoni Hagner. Yoni Hagner putting some pressure on to Morse, trying to keep that gap as tight as possible. Jack Wells, you can look behind him at Shadi Ahmad. Shadi trying to gain on Wells, trying to take advantage of some of this GTO traffic. And look at this, Wells getting held up by Thorben Pollock. And this is going to allow Shadi Ahmad to gain. Oh my goodness, there's gravel all over the track there. You can see Shadi Ahmad losing traction on acceleration because of the gravel.
Yeah, we're not expecting that, and that actually put a car between him and Jack Wells. But Jack can't make an overtake through the complex here, so he's going to have to wait. But if the car is slower, you're going to lose out, and that's exactly what's happened to the man who hails, apparently, from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And then look, he has to slam on the brake for Jack as they come out of a stall to that corner. He's lost a second just with those 2 cars. No problem there, though, as we got the leaders and the GTOs going side by side. Friesen's going to have to defend on the outside here.
Henry Morris trying to go on the outside. Friesen locks it up into the turn. Both of them, Morse and Friesen, locking it up, and Friesen trying to hold it strong on the inside, forces Morse out further wide, and that actually gave Yoni Hagner an opportunity into the inside. Couldn't capitalize on it. This time Morse with a late dive to the inside of the corner. Mickey Friesen leaves the door open, and who's going to have the best run off of the corner? Still side by side, a little bit of contact there between Friesen and Morse gives an opportunity for Yoni Hagner to go for the lead, but here comes Nick McConnell, our leader of the GTPs. He doesn't want to wait any longer. He sneaks by the 3 of them as Jacob Reed now stuck in behind.
Yeah, Jacob Reed's got stuck. He's going to be losing some time, and he's trying to find an opportunity, but Morse is fighting, and Morse has got a really good overtake here. Did not expect to see this. Side by side, they'll go 3 wide for a split second. Everybody respects, and Morse loses out to Yoni Hagner there through the chateau. And I did think for a moment he had that opportunity. Mickey's seen this in his back mirror, going, well, this is fun. Well, I think that's what he's saying. We can never see his face because the microphone's covering it, but I'm pretty sure he's happy to see these 2 duking it out as Morse once again goes long. Yes, Morse is not behind him, but Yoni Hagner is a very tough nut to try and crack.
We'd never be able to see what Mickey Friesen's saying in his head, nor could we see what's happening on his mouth because of the microphone position. As you can see there, that was Jack Wells streaking through and bumping Yoni Hagner out of the way, moving him just a little bit as he made a commanding pass there. Yoni Hagner was committed to the apex, and Jack Wells just decided that he needed to be there even faster. Morse putting some pressure on Hagner, but if I was Morse at this stage, oh my goodness, Yoni wanted to turn in, and that was Gabriel Martinez who took it way too deep into the chicane.
There was never an overtake on there for Gabriel Martinez, and he has put the sorry on there, but did he know? This is one of the things, when you're multi-class driving, you keep an eye on the black box to know what you've got ahead. That was P2 and P3 battling. P2 had to make evasive maneuvers because the GTP thought that there was only 1 car there, and that's so unfortunate because now he's got to deal with Josh Brain. He can't catch up to Morse. Morse getting held up from Yvonne Platel and Gabriel Martinez. That held up Gabriel, I think, more than it held up Yoni Hagner, despite Yoni lost the position.
Absolutely. So Gabriel Martinez has now lost a lot of time to Shadi Ahmad. That's about 2 seconds they lost in that exchange, and now he's under pressure from Yvonne Platten. So that was a crazy late move. Completely missed the corner.
Well, remember I said that's like the Hockenheim ring. Hang on 1 second as Yvonne just overthrew. This is not the Hockenheim ring hairpin. That was the one we were looking at Adelaide there at turn 5. It's one of those that you kind of miss your markers there. You're trying to go for the late break, and it does not work. And that happened to Gabriel Martinez. Chalk one up to another hairpin moment. It's not Hockenheim ring, but it's got that feeling, I feel, Adam.
For the first time in a long time, I'm looking at the timing tower. I'm noticing 1.6 seconds between Nick Mykonos and Jacob Reed. That was about the gap that it was before Nick Mykonos started going through the traffic. I think this is the first time in a while that Nick Mykonos has had a relatively uneventful pass through traffic here in IMSA Vintage. He's going to be thanking his lucky stars for that opportunity because he's been able to maintain that gap in front over the absolutely dominant this season, Jacob Reed.
Yeah, it's interesting to see as well because Jacob, he's not had the best of the traffic here. Now, I've got to feel he's a iRacing GP World Tour champion. I've got this feeling that Magny-Cours, because it's the only French track we've got, is a track that he would have driven before. So you've got to feel like he does have experience around here. But who has experience in multi-class around here, Adam? This is only the second time we've been here for IMSA Vintage, and I can't think of any other series with multi-class that has been here before.
This is the second time we've been here, and the last time was over 2 years ago. We see Stefan Leslie in a battle with Antonio Alvarez, the two of them flashing their lights at the GTO, who's just trying to do their race, and absolutely getting swarmed is the number 21. Oh my goodness, that's Romain Bello, who's just trying to run their race as Stefan Leslie and Antonio Alvarez. Oh, a dive from Alvarez sends Leslie around and into the barrier.
It's not a high-speed chicane there. You have to slow down and compromise the entry there. And Alvarez decided he could not compromise. He tried to go for a fast move, but yes, he had the inside, but it turned to the outside pretty quickly. And that may have given suspension damage to Stephanie Leslie there, as he's unable to keep on driving. We'll get back to that later, because this is Johnny Hagner. Remember I said that send that Gabriel Martinez gave him probably didn't hold him up as much as we thought? Well, there he is. He's a second and a half behind Mickey Fries in the lead, and he's right on the back of Henry Morse. The legend does what the legend wants for Glacier Racing.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately for Romain Bello and Antonio Alvarez and Stefan Leslie, that little incident causing all of them a little bit of time. We're looking at Yoni Hagner right now on board, just a second behind Henry Morse. It's a second spacing out both first, second, and third, all three of them right now. And oh my goodness, Nick McConnell gets spun out by a blinking Ahmet Yesel. That's our leader in the GTPs, who just got taken out by a backmarker who's last on track.
And he didn't even know the car was there, because he's blinking. He can't see if the car's yielding to give him the position or what. And then he's trying to make the move side by side. Through the chicane, through the complex, the final two corners, 16 and 17. McCannels has to make that decision. He can't hesitate and lift. He just has to wait for an opportunity, and unfortunately the opportunity comes that he has to lose out. Jack Wells is going to catch up now. That's 6 seconds he lost. Well, even 7, I feel. He was almost 2 seconds ahead of Jacob Reed, and that's just handed this win, knock on wood, to Reed on a platter.
And Reed can't back off and give the position to Nick McConnell, because otherwise that puts him into the clutches of Jack Wells as well. So we'll see what Reed decides to do here, because that was an absolute mugging that McConnell just went through. But Reed doesn't owe Nick McConnell anything. But my goodness, this one's gonna sting if Nick McConnell isn't able to catch up to Reed again. Let's see what happened.
Well, where is he? There he is. And does he even know? But first of all, does Yesel know that McCannels is there? Does McCannels know that Yesel was there? What's the famous American political saying, Adam? There are known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns. I think the latter two we've got to look at there for what happened.
So dramatic start of the race for Ahmet Yesel, who's down behind the entire GTO pack, and unfortunately for him, just a rough day on the track, just being involved in quite a few incidents. Jack Wells, we're taking a look at now, as he's trying to catch up to the back of Nick McConnell. 5 seconds behind Jacob Reed is Nick McConnell. It's broken up our battle for the lead. The dominant Jacob Reed, who has yet to lose a race except for the one time that he wrecked out, currently in the lead by 4.6 seconds. Back at the GTOs, it's still a second separating second between each of the cars, first through fourth positions, now through fifth position, Philip Lake, as we look at Antonio Alvarez once again trying to put some pressure onto Stefan Leslie.
Yeah, let's see what happens this time. He did get a good run, but it was the wrong corner to make a run last time out. And they're coming on down to this hard corner into 14. I say 14, I've got my corners wrong at the moment. Now they're coming up to the start-finish line. It was the last corner, and he loses that bit of time here. I'm really surprised how many of these GTPs have made mistakes at that complex delice. My French is really bad, apologies. 16 and 17. It's just one of those corners that you can be aggressive on the chicane, but at the same time, there's a little bit of a bump there, and we know these are ground effect style cars. You can't really do much. Like, you've got to be full out throttle like Ivan Platon is right now as he tries to catch up to Gabriel Martinez, trying to make a move. I can report that Alvarez did get on by, and there's a moment there for Gabriel Martinez, just as I said, Adam, trying to cut too much of that chicane, and had a little bit of a bump.
Might be worth giving up 2/10 just to make sure that that doesn't happen. Lost a position to Ivan Platon and is now under threat from Brendan Lim behind. So absolutely, it's not it's taking that extra 0.2 of a cut is not paying dividends for our drivers. There you see Mickey Friesen, little bit loose through that section. He's now got pressure from Henry Morse behind.
Yeah, he's also got pressure from Joni Hagner. He's there as well. And yeah, give some respect to Josh Brain and Philip Lake. They're there, and give respect to Andreas Schuster. It's an elongated train of 6. I don't have a blanket. I might have to find something bigger than a blanket, a tent to put them all under at the moment. But this is where Friesen keeping it calm. And look, Morse tried to do a little bit of a cut there, and he, in a GTO, Adam, a little bit of a bump there, really wanted to kick out a little bit. Hagner, fastest lap for the cars. Key numbers here: 37.799 Friesen, 37.254 Morse, 37.023 Hagner, 287 for Josh Brain, and 407 for Philip Lake. They are catching. Friesen is under pressure. I think it's safe to say, looking at those times, I think it's getting to him a little bit.
Speaking of times, don't look now, but keep your eyes on the tree over the next couple of laps. Nick Bucanos, 2 seconds behind Jacob Reed as they're starting to catch up to some traffic right now. But I would not expect, I wasn't expecting Nick Bucanos to close up this much. In fact, it wasn't the traffic that he's been closing on lap time as well. So still 3 seconds, and I think that's a solid, believable 3 seconds behind Jacob Reed. He's gained 2 seconds. Oh, Henry Morse looks like he's going to take he just took a little bit of a slowdown recovery there off track, so he's now fallen behind Joni Hagner and is now in between Josh Brain and Joni Hagner in 3rd position as we ride on board with Andreas Schuster as he's tucked in behind Phil, trying to challenge for that 5th position.
Yeah, I think Henry Morse tried to do the long lap penalty that they've got from the motorbikes here, but this is the interesting thing as well. Right behind them, if you see behind, there's been an accident right behind Schuster, with keeping Henry Morse. Behind them was Alvarez and Leslie coming together. Traffic is coming to fight on their own battle, and they're trying to do it around these cheese wedges, these cheese graters, these washing machines, everything you want to say. But Alvarez, Leslie right behind, still duking it out. And on that corner before at turn 14, they tried to check up, and Alvarez tried to get on by as we keep eyes on Jack Wells.
Jack Wells is caught back up to the back of Nick Bucanos, putting some heavy pressure on him. Nick Bucanos losing a little bit of time through the traffic right now. He's lost about half a second to Jacob Reed, but both of them catching up to the back of Jacob Reed, 3.5 seconds right now, and they've got a gap between themselves and the traffic up ahead as they're going to have to make their way past Richard Young, the first of the regularly slow GTPs, the drivers who are on the lead lap initially. So Jack Wells trying to catch up to the back of Nick Bucanos. They're going to go past Jack David Spickett here on the straightaway and into the braking for the first hairpin.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. Is Jack going to overdo this? He doesn't. Very smart. There's a little bit of a hold up there. Holds himself and Jack up a small bit, but very smart not to try and drive that in late and make a late move. He loses a little bit of time, but the key thing is keeps the momentum. Everybody survives. Bucanos up ahead has to look at this lap car, and the lap car does get out of the way. Credit where credit's due. Not what you should be doing, but still gets out of the way of this fight, understands what is happening ahead. But who did that hold? That held up Bucanos a little bit. Brendan Lim is still, though, looking for this. Ever since he saw Gabriel Martinez ahead, he's now looking for this. And I wonder if he's actually just waiting for Martinez to make a mistake here.
Absolutely. So he's got Romain Bello splitting himself and Gabriel Martinez. Martinez gets past Nate Lawrensky, and then Brendan Lim sneaks his way past Bello. You can see the traffic really starting to become a factor on here. Everyone's been behaving themselves fairly well so far, except for the incidents that we've seen on screen. Brendan Lim sneaks his way past Lawrensky and is now right on the back of Gabriel Martinez, but lost about half a second in that exchange. Again,
Traffic given, traffic taken away. And to be fair, we don't have a big field out there today. Granted, it's 35 cars. As Brendan, that's not the track there, my guy. You're not going for a pit entry there, so he'll take an off track there very shortly. But the key thing is, there's a lot of free space out there today. The last few races, it's been a very congested track. You've got bunches of cars together, and then it's open. So this does help a lot of drivers. So keep your eye on that timing tower, because the leaders in the GTP are in that congested area, and that could be a big difference out here. But for like the Brendan Lim, pretty clean at the moment. And then the bottom half of the track, it's empty right now, Adam, just to give an idea of how bad it is.
Nick Bucanos 2.4 behind Jacob Reed, still in the thick of the traffic. He's got the top three in the GTOs to pass. taking a look at Brendan Lim as he's still trying to recover from that earlier spin. Nick McConnell's unfortunately getting held up behind Joni Hagner through the second of the chicanes, and that's going to lose him a good 2 seconds. Unfortunately, getting stuck in behind the top three in the GTOs. We're looking at Henry Morse right now in third position. A good exit off the corner. You can see there's that overspeed from the all-wheel drive that can happen as the GTOs have a faster corner exit speed off of the slower corners than the GTPs in most scenarios.
Yeah, and it does help on a track like this as you start to see. And we thought this was going to be with the way the corners are. Also keep some of the speed up here as Henry Morse keeps on looking. We haven't addressed it yet, Adam, and I feel like I'm going to curse a man, but the number 3 is in order today for some driver leading one of the classes. I think we know who it is. I'm not going to jinx it, but also it's interesting from a championship standpoint as we keep our eyes on Brendan Lim battling Lars Olsen up ahead. It's interesting to actually see how the GTO championship leaders are struggling at this track today, where then you have Mickey Friesen, who's the one to really grasp of the opportunity.
Absolutely. If we could take a look at Mickey Friesen right now, he is currently 0.8 of a second ahead of Henry Morse in third position. So take a look at Lars Olsen. Lars, we haven't talked about it much this season, currently riding in a calm 7th position, trying to build up that consistency once again. So it's going to be interesting to see how this happens. There's Jack Wells in third position. He's lost about a second to Nick McConos, who's lost that 2 seconds to Jacob Reed. Jacob's still 4 seconds out there in front with 14 minutes left on the clock of this 40-minute race. We're under the halfway point. Nick McConos has a lot to do to try and catch up. You can see Jack Wells sneaking past a GTO who just went wide through the penultimate corners.
And then you start to wonder, if McConos didn't have that spin, would he still have the lead? And you've got to think that a few laps ago, McConos gained a lot of time to Reed, lost all that time now to Reed. So it's kind of on the fence because Reed has had the better of the traffic. You're trying to just play that in your mind to go, okay, I had that spin. Is that going to help me? I'm not entirely sure. Wells is kind of bubble racing. In fact, you look at all the GTP, sorry, they're all bubble racing. There's no one around each other. They're trying to find an opportunity, but with 13.5 minutes to go, it's going to be hard to find an opportunity. And then you look at the GTOs. Well, here's the battle between Roman Bello and Matej Larinsky. They've got 2 cars behind them. And then you've got a 3-car battle for the lead. It's all happening in the GTOs, and it's very quiet at the moment in the GTPs.
Absolutely. Henry Morse, a late dive on Joni Hagner, trying to hold off some traffic through the first hairpin as we continue to watch Romain Bello right now. Romain Bello has been duking it out with multiple cars today, but currently in a battle with Matt Larinsky and has Bryce Kaluza tucked in behind. Bryce Kaluza, remember, started from 20th position in the GTOs, currently up to 13th.
Well, he's doing the cut, the clapper special here, as they say on the iceberg. Look at that with Bello. He outbraked on to Larinsky there and had to just do a little bit of a correction with the movement of the car because he knew that, that was actually almost going to come in together. I can report Lars Olsen has had a spin out there as we watch the Bello trying to push on. There is Lars. Doesn't look like a lot of damage to the car. Looks like a stealth spin, but that's got to be frustrating for Lars. He's had a really good run, and that there is some damage there. Just unfortunate for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, just not been the same since that incident or illness that he had a couple of seasons ago. It's been rough to try and get back on to form in the GTP. We're taking a look at the battle with Henry Morse and Joni Hagner. Joni Hagner 1 second behind Mickey Friesen, trying to gain that time back. The traffic not playing nicely for Joni. He's been cut off multiple times at this hairpin we're about to approach to. So it's been really rough, unfortunately, for Joni Hagner and the traffic. You can see him shading towards defense there. And as you can see up front, Mickey Friesen looks like he might have a little bit of fun and damage. Morse very strong on the brakes into the hairpin, getting into the back of Joni Hagner.
And behind as well, we saw Philip Late making an overtake onto Josh Brain. There they are just in the background, but keep our eyes on these guys happening right now as you've got to wonder where does Morse look for a move here? Joni Hagner, but Mickey Friesen now struggling. And let's have a look at that damage if we can. There's a slight chip. I don't see anything serious like what we saw with Van Hick. Remember, Van Hick's had a lot of damage. He's still there rocking it in 7th, really putting in some respectable times, even with a lot of nose damage. but for Henry Morse, Mickey Friesen, Joni Hagner, not in that order, of course, they've been stuck together through the whole race, apart from one moment, and then all of a sudden it is. And I tell you what, Jack Davis Pickett just said it feels like he's driving a bus out there today. I wouldn't say this is really bus category. The corners are a bit too tight for that, Adam.
I mean, a bus can go around these corners, but wouldn't have the oh my goodness, quite the jump off of, off of the chicane from Mickey Friesen there. You got to be careful because you can damage the suspension on these Audis. It takes a lot. These cars have rally heritage. As you can see, oh my goodness, this is the battle between Romain Bello, Bryce Calusa, and Emilio Dicciari. And that is Bryce Calusa getting cut off by Brandon White, 9th position in the GTPs. His nearest competitor is Antonio Alvarez, 12 seconds behind, as we see Emilio Dicciari taking to the inside of a wide Bryce Calusa into the final chicanes and able to power out. Now he's got to try and make his way up forward to catch Romain Bello again.
Credit to Bryce there. That was a really good line through 15 to set up into 16, 17. But it was just the fact that Emilio was right there and compromised all that driving. So really good overtake there from, remember, the GTO Lights champion. So you've got to feel that he still has a way to just really boss around some of these cars and say, look, don't look at my iRacing, look at my skill. And he's got a lot of skill on display here. He's going to have to wait to see. I thought Bryce might have tried to go over the overspeed there, decided against it, broke early, and he's forced the issue because Dicciari on that corner, he locked up the side tire there. I think it was the rear right he locked up, and that is going to cause a little bit of an issue that come through the next few corners.
3.8 seconds, so holding about 4 seconds between Nick Picanos and Jacob Reed. Unfortunately for Nick, just falling afoul of a back marker early on, who is blinking, not present on the track when Nick tried to pass him, ended up getting spun out by that back marker and has now fallen behind our now leader Jacob Reed by 3.5 seconds.
And that's just going to be interesting now. Picanos only 3 seconds, matching times though. If we look at the standings, but now getting held up because he's right behind these two who are having their battle. And to be fair, Roman Bello's just ahead as well. That's the almost the Falcon, the reverse Falcon livery, as I like to call it, the yellow and the blue for Bello as Bryce works his way through. It's crazy to think we're 8 minutes left to go in the race, and still the top three in GTO are just glued together as Bryce continues to look for the opportunity, look for the speed, but every time, look, he's going really wide just to allow Antonio Alvarez come through in the GTP. And I just feel like some drivers are not getting the best of runs out here with the traffic today. Joni Hagner was one of them, and you've got to feel as well that's another one that's had issues.
Andrea Schuster challenging Josh Brain, who has some major front-end damage on his machine. Josh Brain currently in 5th position. Phil Lake able to get past Josh Brain a couple of laps ago, so Phil up to 4th position, but he's 6 seconds outside of the battle for that top 3. So unless the top 3 really get to it side by side, he's not going to have an opportunity to join that battle in the next 7.5 minutes. Or here we look at Henry Morse once again. He is very strong on the brakes into the hairpins. He's got a lot of pace around this track. I honestly did not expect to see him be so strong here, Craig.
Well, credit where credit's due. Morse has really started to just gel with this car, gel with the series. He's starting to be, he's slowly starting to be the regular. Get him in the little group. He's starting to be the regular here. He's really rubbing the elbows and bumping and running and everything, and he's doing it with the respect, and the drivers respect him as well now, and that's the key thing. Everyone's drivers respect. You start to race a little bit harder. You start to race a little bit more respectful. And of course, the key thing here that he's learned as well, as we always say with GTOs, Adam, it's a slipstream. Let's not go for aggressive moves. Let's not fight. Work together until the end to start making the moves. And I feel he's got that under. It's almost like Fight Club. The first rule of GTO driving, you don't fight.
Yeah, and what's very interesting is we see Yvonne Platten in 12th position trying to cut his way through some of the traffic. What's very interesting is the more respect you gain out on track, the more drivers will actually not battle you or work together with you because they know that your pace matches theirs. So it can actually speed you up on track by the tune of 4 to 5 seconds per race when you have drivers on track who respect you and aren't going to battle you super intensely until the very end, where they'll battle you intensely and fairly.
Yeah, even Platon and Shaddy are mad, going side by side. They may have to go 3 wide in a minute. It's for Pollock just coming up, but Shaddy decide against it, and Platon had to slow down. That's crucial. Ahmad made a small switch there because Platon had to slow down. Otherwise, he would have got a slowdown as he was coming through Nürburgring, and that's not where you want to be. And now he's on a little bit of the back foot. As Ahmad will look on. I just want to give a point. You were talking about you work together now. In 2 weeks, it's the last of the. It's the second hour-long race at the series at Daytona. Knowing who to work with is going to be important at that race, and that's just what Morse is doing right now. And what Platon's doing right now is starting to create a little bit of gap between himself and Shadi Ahmad.
Yeah, knowing who you work with at Daytona is really important, but also knowing when not to fight a GTP. If you think a GTP is going to make a late lunge, you let them go and try and build a good exit, because if you get cut off by a GTP of the GTOs and you lose the draft of the cars ahead, that's the end of your opportunity to challenge for the win. And at Daytona, anyone can win, even in a multi-class series like this. A bad exit for Yoni Hagner. Oh my goodness, a little bit of a punt there. So unfortunately for Romain Bello, he was sent off track yet again by a GTP. So Andreas Schuster able to sneak by. Oh, we've had contact. Henry Morse has gotten into Yoni Hagner. He tried to take it inside line into the left-hander here. And unfortunately for Yoni, just didn't see it coming.
Not the place to make an overtake. We'll see the replay in a moment. He was going into 180, and I think as well, Henry just learned the hard way that you cannot send it in late in these GTOs, because that's what happened to him. Unfortunately for Romain Bello, another incident there coming through one of the chicane as he holds on. But this is important. Yoni Hagner can work his way back up, but there's 4 minutes to go. I don't think he's going to be able to. Henry is going to be apologizing. Now this is an idea that you can make this overtake. Not in these cars. He has to outbrake for a sweeping left-hander. And yes, the door's open, but you've got to slow the car down. And there's not really many places to slow the car down there. And it's just, I won't say it's a rookie mistake for Henry Morse, because he's driven it a lot. But it's one of those that if you don't understand the corner and you don't understand the braking, yeah, it's an honest mistake from Henry. He knew desperation kicked in if he wanted to win. He had to try and make that move. And it just didn't pay off.
He'll probably want that one back, but maybe not if he is able to climb up to Mickey Friesen and win this race. We'll see what happens. It won't be a popular one as he slides the corner. Look at that. He got a little bit loose coming into the entry, so unfortunately for him, loses a little bit more time. We're down to the final couple of laps of this race. 3 minutes and 15 seconds and counting for these drivers out there. I can report that Philip Lake took it late into Nürburgring as well, and so lost 2 positions to Andreas Schuster and Josh Brain, so he's going to be trying to claw his way back from those back up to 4th position. There is Jack Wells, currently 11 seconds behind Nick Makanos. Nick Makanos 3 seconds behind Jacob Reed with under 3 minutes to go.
I'll tell you what, Yoni Hagner actually caught up to the back of Henry Morse. That's actually very interesting. He'd almost caught up to the back end, and then a Brandon White just makes a mistake through one of the hairpins, and that cost Yoni Hagner as we watch Makanos. By the way, we did have another person have a spin here at that chicane as Jacob Reed goes purple. I want to say that's it. I did have it there, and my memory just gone back. It was Josh Brain having another bit of a spin there, I believe. But now you see Yoni Hagner coming on through. He was so close to Henry Morse, and traffic giveth and traffic taketh away yet again. And all that work he did, he's going to have to do it all over again, as right ahead of the leaders, there's a lot of traffic happening.
Absolutely, right ahead of the leaders, there's traffic happening. A look at this, tucked in behind Henry Morse is Brandon White and Antonio Alvarez battling for 9th position. Hey, oh my goodness, Henry Morse just doesn't know which way to go at this point. And we've got Laust Olsen as well trying to sneak his way through, so Laust does sneak his way through, but this is all going to be under braking for Mickey Friesen. Friesen taking a defensive line to the inside, but all the GTPs are braking too much and they get into Mickey. Here comes Henry, but he runs into the back of Antonio Alvarez. Contact between Mickey and Henry, and there goes Yoni Hagner through the grass, but he's going to have to serve a slowdown. Who's going to have the lead in this race in the GTOs?
Welcome to the slowest race you'll ever see, and more contact between Friesen and Morse. They were trying to go side by side through Nürburgring, and it's not the Nürburgring best chicane out there. Then it's just all of a sudden just got a little bit carnage out there. Friesen went to go for the braking for Adelaide, and you could see just made a mistake. We're going to see the white flag here for Jacob Reed, but it was a mistake from the GTPs checking up. Friesen was not ready for it. Somehow Yoni Hagner gets through it all, going, this is fine, I'm fine. Friesen, I've jinxed the man. He's lost on the penultimate lap the lead.
So Jacob Reed on the final lap. He has the purple lap on the board as well. Mickey Friesen's going to be driving angry right now as he heads towards the white flag himself. He's only half a second behind Joni Hagner, and he's got his eyes set on Hagner. He's going to have an opportunity here into the first hairpin if he decides to do it. But Jacob Reed, very strong throughout the race, and Jacob has a relatively clear track. All he has to do is clear Mate Lorinsky, and he's got a good opportunity. But look at this, Mickey Friesen gaining, ever gaining. Laus Olsen sneaking his way through. Is this going to be a rinse and repeat for Joni Hagner, or is Laus going to be able to take the corner with speed? It's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
I think he's all right. We're looking up. Here it is, Jacob Reed. All he's got to do is navigate just 3 more corners officially, but it's 1 corner and a chicane. Been very dominant for him. Can't see a move from Friesen right now, though, as they come to the second part of the straights.
A dominance was challenged by Nick Bakanos. It looked like he had the name of Jacob Reed over the course of the day, but then that contact with the slow GTP has not going to report. Mickey Friesen, you can see it on screen. They're just having a little bit of trouble with the slow GTP, but Jacob Reed takes the win here over a heartbroken Nick Bakanos. Nick is going to have a field day in the Discord channel today. But Joni Hagner currently with the lead as Mickey Friesen got caught up by Gabriel Martinez. You can see Mickey Friesen trying to get as much out of it as possible. But Joni Hagner with 0.6 of a second going into the final sector of the race. It's going to be hard for Mickey to get there.
Yeah, and also, can Henry Morse hold on to P3? I think he will, as Andreas Schuster's got a clean car. A lot of damage to Friesen. He's going to have to try and do something big here. It's not going to happen. Joni Hagner's just going to have to keep it clean. He was battling all race. He was down in the dumps at third at one point. He gets the victory, not the way he wanted it, but he had to survive at the end. And unfortunately for Friesen, so close and so far. And Van Hicks in the background gets the position over Josh Brain. Friesen in anger throws the car into the wall, and I do not blame him one bit.
No, absolutely. And Jorn Van Hicks in got P6, and so that is going to be Mickey Friesen going from the win and having Van Hicks in P7 to getting second position and having Van Hicks in P6. That's a significant swing of points that goes the way of Van Hicks. So Mickey Friesen's opportunity to close that gap at the championship closes today. Doug Cloud trying to put some pressure there onto Romain Bello, can't get it done on the final lap. Actually, he does get ahead on the final lap. That was Emilio Dicciari that he was battling with. But my goodness, those last 2 laps, Craig, were dramatic.
Well, it was all a little bit of calm, and it was just that one moment at the chicane. Just absolute carnage. Just out of one moment there, Brendan Lim ran out of fuel, and it was just cars just stacking up out of nowhere. And, well, to be fair, Mickey, I think he actually also did outbrake himself there. Small mistake from him there, but he wasn't expecting 4 GTPs to just queue up there into the hairpin.
Jacob Reed take home the win over Nick Bakanos by 6 seconds in the end. Nick Bakanos getting held up by a blinking Ahmet Yesson, spun through the final corner, lost the lead that he had commandingly over Reed. Jack Wells tried to battle with Nick Bakanos early on, but then got into a couple of incidents late on and came home in 3rd position. Just ahead of Yvonne Platten by about 5 seconds. Shadi Ahmad comes home with the top 5 over Gabriel Martinez, and Brendan Lim down there in 7th position ran out of fuel on the final lap. Christoph Lesniak, the last driver on the lead lap, then Antonio Alvarez and Stefan Leslie rounding out your top 10. Brandon White was our first driver 2 laps down. And then we had the drivers who did not finish the race: Laus Olsen, Richard Young, Ahmet Yesel, and Miguel Villamarin.
We get to the GTOs. Apologies if I got a hiccups there. I'm not sure why, but Joni Hagner, somehow, some way, out of nowhere, out of an incident, take the victory away from Mickey Friesen, who gets his 5K back, but he doesn't get the victory he wanted. Henry Morse will be in 3rd, and Andreas Schuster makes his way up to 4th, with Philip Lake in 5th, followed by Johan Van Hicks in 6th, and Josh Brain fell 4 places down to 7th, with Shane Hawkins a quiet 8th. Jack Davis Pickett was driving a bus today in 9th. Forbin Pollock will be 10th. And then we get to 11th. Emilio Dicciari just ousted Doug Cloud at the end there. Not a good day for Doug, down 4, and so down 4 for Roman Bello in 13th. Bryce Calusa started from the back and made up 6th to 14th. Then Mate Lorinsky was 15th, last of the guys on the lead lap. Yoni Berg was 16th. Ian Haycox was 17th. And Johnny Bell was 18th. And then Jose Dureo was retired in 19th. And JD Rodriguez parked the car as well after an incident down in 20th.
Well, I was fairly sure that we weren't going to have anyone to talk to today because people are going to be too mad. But then I realized there is one person who probably doesn't have anyone to be mad at, and that is Yoni Hagner. Yoni, our winner in the GTOs, is here to talk to us. Yoni Hagner battling it out there with Mickey Friesen and Henry Morse over the course of the day. But Yoni, on that final lap, seeing the two leaders get into contact coming out of that hairpin and with the GTPs, how did you find your way by?
I don't know. Try to avoid everyone and take a slowdown on the crash. I don't know what exactly happened there. Yeah, it was a bit of gift win, but I will take it.
Yeah, absolutely. How was it battling out there with Mickey Friesen and Henry Morse? It seemed like y'all had very matched pace today, and a little bit surprising to see Morse up there. He's been a top 10 runner most of the season, but to see him battling up there for the lead, he was fairly quick today.
Yeah, Henry was very quick whole week, and then Nicky was also very fast, and he was faster on the different parts of the track than me, but yeah. Cause this was my like third race ever in this track, so I'm quite new to this. I don't quite like it and quite technical, but yeah.
Well, there's a reason that we've only been here 2 years ago, so it makes sense as to why that's the case. But next week we head off to the Charlotte Roval, a very different style of track, very different style of setup for you. Are you going to be joining us for that race, and what are your thoughts heading into that round?
I will probably join. I have a bit of plans next weekend, but I should be able to do it.
Well, Yoni, congratulations on the win here today. You absolutely took it with your pace that you maintained and took that opportunity when it came to you. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, always need to say hi to my mom.
Well, hi to moms everywhere, and hi to Yoni's mom as well. Congrats to Yoni Hagner, our winner in the GTOs today. Thanks for talking to us, Yoni. That was Yoni Hagner, the winner of the GTO class, and that's going to wrap up our broadcast here today. I want to give a big thank you to the IMSA Vintage series for bringing us on for yet another season, and we want to thank the team today, Craig, Daniel, and Dougie. Also, make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race, as mentioned, is the Charlotte Roval. That's going to be on August 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And next up on GSRC is the Classic Lotus Sunday Grand Prix Series at the Hungaroring. That's tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time as well. And don't miss the other upcoming races that you can see on our channel here on YouTube, the GSRC. We hope you've enjoyed joining us today as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you, and we hope to see you back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.